nice to meet you, Ibrahim. And it is great for you to be on Hidden Gems. Hidden Gems Academy has only really been going for about 7, 8 months. And the reason why I set this up was really to uncover those people in our community who are doing great things and people may not be aware of who they are. Maybe they're not A-listers, celebrities, but maybe in my eyes, I think you're a mini celebrity because you're doing something great and more people need to know about Ibrahim and what he does. So tell me about your business. I know we've been talking relationships and I'm gonna snip some of that and put it onto my my TikTok. But tell me about you, and how did you get into this wonderful business?
Yeah, wow. I've been in property for quite a while. I've been in property now, for well over 10 years. So how did I get into property? It's a little bit of a longer story, really, because just to kind of give some context, I used to be homeless, right? Okay. And on a particular night, this is in October in 2006. I'm in this garage, right? And it's normal stuff. You got the bags, boxes, bikes, just the normal rubbish. And just in the corner of that garage, you've got some cardboard boxes on the floor. You've got the duvet. And on this particular night, like, it was just cold, windy, it was raining. But just below the door of the garage and the floor, there's like this little gap. And the wind is now blowing in the rain. And my duvet is getting wet. So I'm just there, I'm shivering, I'm freezing, I'm cold. And I just start crying. Because in that moment, I just felt like ashamed. I felt like embarrassed of myself because I've always known that I'm smart, I've got intelligence, and even in those moments, even when I was homeless, I never felt like, oh, I'm not going to achieve anything. I've always known I was capable of something, but nonetheless, everything that I had done up to that point had got me to where I was, right? And I'm homeless. I just said to myself in that moment, like, this is not going to be my life. This is not going to be my life. And for the first time ever, I said, you know what, I'm actually going to ask for help. And that's when I decided to reach out to the one person who I knew always kind of believed in me, even when I was running around doing madness. And he's like, bro, what are you doing? Like, you're a smart guy. You can. So that was my teacher, Mr. Adams. So I reached out to him and, he didn't let me down. And just under 2 years from that moment, I made it to uni. And it was in that moment, I always say, like, I wish he told me I was going to be coming out of over 40 grand worth of debt. He kept that one a secret, but, but that's fine. But I would never change it for the world, because that journey, that process, understanding discipline, having a focus of this is where I'm ultimately going to get to, this is where I'm running away from, I never want to be in this position again, but knowing that I was going to have to be focused, diligent, and work hard to actually get there, is an experience that's completely transformed my life and the way that, I do everything I do till now. But, after uni, one thing when you're homeless is you understand the value of a roof over your head. So I just, at some level, I wanted to be involved in property. So I just literally printed up my CVs and I went to every single estate agent on the high street in Southampton and just said, apply. They all said, no. I got to the second to last one. He sat me down, spent about 30 minutes with me, and just kind of told me all the things that I was saying wrong. He said, look, I can't offer you the job because I've just started. It was a franchise owner. That's a different story in itself, because I actually met him again just a few months ago, and I told him what he did for me, and he had tears in his eyes.
Oh.
Yeah, he didn't remember. It was just something he did out of the kindness of his heart. He didn't know me from Adam. I just walked in. It's like, you sound smart, but you're talking rubbish. People, they're not, you're coming across cocky. You're not going to get the job. Sit down. Here's what you need to do. Do you know what I'm saying? To get this job, which was incredible, because the very next one I went into, which was the last shop on the high street, estate agency, I got the job in that estate agency.
Oh, wow.
Incredible. That's why when people are always talking about being self-made, I'm just like it's literally a spit in the face of the people who have helped you along your journey. So for example, I can say, oh yeah, I was homeless, I dragged myself up and I've done these things I've done, but what about Mr. Adams? Yeah. What about this guy that helped me? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like there's just so many people along the way that help you, and people just tend to forget about, and I'm self-made. It's a nonsense. And then that's how I started, worked for us as an estate agency, worked all my way, up to the point when I was working for the largest property investment firm in the city. And, that's kind of pretty much, how I've gotten to what I'm doing now. But I mean, in terms of what I do specifically now is I left the city because what happened was 2 weeks prior, my dad, well, my father figure dad. So this was someone who raised me. You know, it was actually my uncle, but he raised me as a dad when I was growing up in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
So he's passed away. 2 weeks later, my mom's in intensive care. She's in COVID.
Oh, Lord.
She's got COVID. She's in intensive care. The only thing keeping her alive is a ventilator. You know, and being African background, like I'm the eldest son, it's literally my job to look after my family, you know, my siblings, all of that sort of stuff. So I've got to take time off. You know, I didn't even take time off when, you know, my dad died because he was in Nigeria. There wasn't really much I could do. I understand how the corporate world works. So you know these things where you know you should probably take time, but you also understand the environment you're in. So you're like, you have to pick your battles. Yeah. I'm not going to take time off then. It doesn't make sense. But this time I'm like, I've got to take time off. And it's just the attitude, the behavior towards me, someone who's, you know, who's elite, someone who's always done great work, someone who was actually smashing it. And I thought, I've given everything to these guys, but this is how you're going to treat in a vulnerable period in my life. And I said to myself, I'm done, you know, and that's when I said, I'm never, ever, ever working for someone ever again in my life. So it's time to go out into the marketplace and do my own thing. So I started looking at, you know, how I could get into property by myself. So I looked at some education companies, and then I actually, you know, went for a training with one company. And obviously, you know, looking at my skill set, the things that I'd achieved in property, they actually invited me to become a consultant for them, as well as a mentor within their academy to mentor the students. Oh. And it was in that capacity, I'm really, really blessed, you know, to have, you know, I was there for about 2 years with this company, really, really blessed to really understand how the whole sector works, the whole industry works. What I didn't like is the fact that 80% of people that came through looked like me. There was very little care to whether people actually get those results, and there's very little aftercare to actually ensure that people get those results. And I'm talking people who are spending tens of thousands of pounds on mentorship. Now, it's fine, don't get me wrong, you know, because, you know, mentorship, you're asking for someone who's made millions of pounds in the sector, you're asking them to devote their time to you, and, you know, so you're paying for that luxury. But the reality was, these people were not really devoting the time. And there was very little accountability, you know, put in place to actually help people achieve the things that they want to achieve. So for me, even though my skill set leans more towards, okay, how am I able to help people? You know, how do I work with investors? That's what my skill set leans to. I work with investors and I help them build their property portfolios, because that's what I was doing in the city. But then I thought to myself, how can I actually help people like me? Because a lot of people coming through were like me. Some of them, okay, some of them had money and it was cool, but a lot of them, they were investing, but they were doing the absolute not to get that investment, to be able to change their life, because this is, you know, the dream, this is what's been sold. But obviously, then it's not coming to fruition. So I'm seeing this and I'm just like, it's killing me inside, because a lot of people say to me, oh, do you know what? Like when I saw your face, I was like, yeah, I'm in. Because I was representing this brand, you know, I was doing webinars and stuff like that. I was hosting events. And so I'm like, I can't be the catalyst for why people are coming in. And then I'm like, I can't be that, like, and if I'm going to be that guy, then I need to be in a position where I can actually effect the change. Where I can say, okay, I'm going to give you the resources. I'm going to give you all of these things you need to actually get the results that you wanted to do. But what I didn't want to do is to just be one of these coaches who just goes out there and starts coaching. But even though I had, you know, years of experience, I could have done it. But I said, actually, you know what's going to be the best way for me to actually serve people? And I looked at a particular strategy in property where you didn't need too much money to get involved, you know, where you could actually come in on a lower level. Mm-hmm. And I chose to do that business for myself. I said, okay, cool. I'm going to go into it. I'm going to do it. Get the results. So when I'm talking from a position of credibility, and then I can really show people, say, look, here's what I'm doing, right? So this is not like, here's what I'm doing. I can help you achieve this, you know, and then also put in all the structures and accountability to ensure that people actually do. So what I do in my business is something called service accommodation. So it's short-term rentals where we rent out property, we'll manage properties for landlords and investors, particularly as Airbnbs. That was a very long way to get to that little sentence.
Oh, we got there though. And that's what you do. And I think, yeah, there are a lot of people who think that, property is a good way to go. And the way that I guess mentors and training companies advertise, people are drawn in. It's like, yeah, I've been to some, some presentations myself, and I've been like, is it that easy? So I need to, I'm spending money. I've got a friend right now who has been doing lots of property training. And she says, I still haven't got to that point where I can try something or do at least one thing, but I just keep going because I just like the motivation. But I think the thing is, she can't yet see where she fits into that. So I love that you actually went out and you started to do it yourself. Because I think people can it resonates with people when you say, I've done this, I am doing it, and this is how it's working for me. And then, we can follow you, we can see that, look, how you're making mistakes, or, how you're getting past things that they may have to see in the future. And that's what a real mentorship, I think, is about. It really is that personal experience, and then showcasing that so somebody else can see how they can make the same journey.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you are here. I'm going to ask you that question because the question we talked about before, which is really, why do you think you're a hidden gem? Because if I was going to, call you a hidden gem, what do you think? That may be my idea of who you are, but what is your idea of being a hidden gem?
I mean, I think many things. I think many things because I'm going to, there's so many different ways I can go, but I'm going to talk specifically in my industry and what I'm doing. Why I think I'm a hidden gem is for, a few different reasons. First of all, I like to say I've been inside the belly of the beast. All right. I understand this industry like no one else really kind of does who's doing, this coaching thing in the property space. They haven't really had I like to call it mentorship, and the internship that I've had because I've been inside here. This year, I'm talking one of the largest, probably the second largest in this space, right? Without question. And probably they're pushing for #1 position right now. So I understand how all of the inner workings work. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity because it's not everything that's bad, right? There's a lot of good things. So I learned a lot of good things, but I also learned things that I feel could be done differently and could be done better without actually much effort if you just care, right? If you actually just want to make that path easier, that journey easier for people. And I feel with that experience, first of all, I'm able to really affect huge change in the marketplace from that. But I also feel like there's a lot of things that needs to change within the space. There's a lot of things that need to change. You just spoke about your friend, perfect example. And why I'm a hidden gem is I'm going to make these changes. So, she's coming in, you're talking about, I don't know how long she's been doing it, but she keeps going back to these things and she's still confused as to which track to go. Reason being, these people, it's about money for them. Just simply about money. Instead of having a ladder and turning people down saying, no, you are not ready for this, they're just going to take your money. They're going to put you into a 12-month program. And by the end of that 12 months, you're done. You either get results or you don't get results. But they'll have you in multiple different 12-month programs. So you could be doing a strategy, which is self-accommodation. I just spoke about Airbnbs, right? Low-hanging fruit, cash flow strategy. And then you could also be in like a buy, refurbish, refinance. So you're buying properties for cash, getting investors in, refurbing the properties and then selling them. And you could be doing development as well. All at the same time. These are all three very individual, very different strategies. And these people understand this. They're not doing this themselves. I know. Trust me. Right? So, but you're telling people to do all of these three different strategies all at the same time. So it's basically, so we all understand because this is successful people. So we understand that being a jack of all trades, a master of none, is not the way to go. Anyone can tell you that. So if you know that because you're successful, you're smart enough to understand that concept, why then are you putting vulnerable people? And vulnerable doesn't mean these people are not intelligent, but it means as speakers, we genuinely do have an ability to take people on a journey and get them, to really buy. We genuinely do. Like you said, the way we present and all this sort of stuff, I understand I've got a skill, right? And these people have a skill as well. So, but it's a Superman that said with great power comes great responsibility.
Yes.
Right? So yeah, so we have to be conscientious in how we do these things. So someone coming in, this person wants to change their life. So they're susceptible to an opportunity that's going to allow them to do that quickly. So if you're saying this one's going to, oh no, this one's going to do it. Oh yeah, this one. okay, cool. We can, with ability, get them to make those decisions, but we should really be saying, no, start with this one. All of them work. What is your individual situation? Let's have a look at that. Let's dive into what you want. What are your goals? What is it going to be for the next 12 months, next 18 months, next, 3 years? And then let's figure out which strategy is going to be best for you to start with now. And then we'll go into it, right? And then you stick to that one over the next 12, 18 months. You get results on that one. You become successful in that one. And then we can look, most people are going to do bunch of different strategies over time because service accommodation is low-hanging fruit. You're going to generate thousands of pounds. It's cash flow every single month. Cash flow. You're going to get to a point where you say, okay, I want to start holding assets now. That's fine. But trying to do all of that in one go, it's crazy, it's stupendous. So that's the second thing. And then the third thing for me is, I'm coming from a position where, I understand. Like, I used to be homeless, all right? And that's why when I look to strategies, my main skill set is more aligned towards working with investors, helping them build portfolios. But when I come into this industry, I said, what's going to be the easiest way for me to help people? And that's why the strategy that I've decided to go with is a strategy where you need barely any money. You don't need credit. You don't need someone to be a guarantor for you, because quite simply, a lot of people coming from where I'm coming from do not have these options, right? They don't have these options. So how are they able to still get into property and generate an income and potentially change their lives? And you see where I say potentially. You don't hear this sort of language in this space. And this is a key thing when I'm talking about being a hidden gem. I'm not here to sell people dreams, because there's a reality to success. Success leaves clues. And the only way you're going to succeed is if you emulate what other successful people have done. And what other successful people have done is work hard, smart, to get the results that they've gotten today. That's the only way to do it. You can pay as much as you want for mentorship, but if you don't put the work in, nothing's going to happen. It's like people talking about knowledge is power, knowledge is power. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge is potential power. The application of that knowledge is where the power comes, because that's where you're going to see the results. But without the application, nothing happens. Once again, this is not something that people like to talk about. They'll use buzzwords, but without really going deep and saying, hey, you've actually got to do this work. And if you're not willing to do the work, I don't want your money. Yeah. I don't want your money, because then, like, what I'm looking to build is something huge, something that's going to change this space. And the only way to do that is by actually getting people results. The reality is, if you're giving me your money, you're not doing the work, you're not going to get the results. How am I going to use your success stories to motivate and inspire other people to come and join the coaching? It's not going to happen. So for me, it's purely, are you ready to actually change your life? Okay, this is what it's going to take. Are you ready to make that happen? So that's why for me, I feel like I'm a hidden gem in this space, because I'm really, really aiming to truly change people's lives in the way that it can actually happen. Not by selling people dreams and visions, but by telling people what they truly need to do to become the greater versions of themselves.
Josh, I feel like I need to join your coaching practice. You sold it to me. I love your passion and your honesty about who you are and where you're coming from. And I think sometimes you don't feel that with coaches. You don't feel the journey. It feels like almost, you made it, I made it. You want to make it, follow me, But I love that you're coming from a real place, and, sorry to hear about your mom, because that COVID time was a real challenging time for all of us. I lost my dad just before COVID. So I know where you're coming from.
I must say, because I always do forget to mention this, my mom did actually make it through. She is actually still with us today. So luckily, I didn't lose my mom.
Yeah, amen to that. That's brilliant that she's still here.
Yeah.
And you're doing a really great job of leading your family and, and being successful in your own way. And that for me says, yeah, you're a hidden gem, 100%.
Thank you.
One of the things I wanted to talk about is, your successes are there. What do you think has been your biggest challenge in, surviving? Now we're in a world where there's a lot of high inflation. A lot of people are not guaranteed work, even for long-term work. Doesn't exist practically. Entrepreneurship is a nice idea, but for a lot of people, it's like that is hard when you're not guaranteed an income, and people are afraid, I guess sometimes, of things that don't produce a guarantee. And I guess you'll get lots of people come to you saying, can you guarantee that if I put my 10 grand into this, I will multiply it several times because I only have 10 grand, right? So is that kind of situation when I'm saying it's a reality, that there's a lot going on in our world. So how are you dealing with the challenges of 2023?
Here's what I would say. So if you're talking about me personally, I'm quite fortunate in terms of and once again, it comes down, I always say this, the amount of money you make and the amount of success you have is in direct correlation with the amount of value that you give. So when I looked at, jumping into becoming a coach, I said, okay, what's going to be the best strategy? I wasn't thinking about myself. What's going to be the best strategy that I can use to help people get from where they are to where they want to be and start generating an income quickly, removing a lot of the normal barriers that will come into it, like needing a lot of money or, needing credit, even if you're doing the rent-to-rent, needing credit or needing someone to be a guarantor. Because when I was homeless, even when I was starting to sort my life out, nobody was going to be a guarantor for me. And I don't trust this guy. Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot of people who, because of decisions they've made in the past, even now they're on the right path, there's still no one's going to trust them to be a guarantor for them. The credit's short, they haven't got, that much money. So, I was thinking, how do I actually help these people? How do I help me all these years ago? So that was my thought process. That's how I stumbled across, the service accommodation management, because now we're managing for these people. We're not actually, renting the property from them and then, subletting the property out on an Airbnb or whatever it might be. So first of all, that's a lower barrier to entry. So now I'm like, okay, cool, wow, this is a way I can help a lot of people. They don't need money to put deposits down. They don't need all this credit stuff. So that's great. So now I can help a lot of people actually get into the space. But now, under this current economic climate, that's why I talk about the value that you give. Because what we're doing for the landlords as well is completely changed the game. And this is where everything kind of came together for me. And I was like, wow, this strategy is going to change the game. There are people already doing this in the marketplace, but once again, they're not truth tellers. These people are liars. Because it's easier to sell this other strategy, which is the rent-to-rent strategy. But actually, the biggest names in this space are all doing management. Because with management, it's easier to scale. I'm talking specifically, not property manager, I'm talking specifically Airbnb management. It's easier to scale. Because the lower barriers, because you're saying to the landlord, you can make more money. I'm just going to manage it for you. I suppose with the other strategies, like I'm taking on the liability, I'm taking on the rent. So all the money I make on top of it is going to be mine. Right? But the beauty of this current marketplace, what you've just spoken about I'm not talking about the whole current economic climate. I'm talking about my industry, landlords. What's happened over the last couple of years is, landlords, let's say you took out a mortgage a couple of years ago, 1.something%. Now, the same mortgage is now 4.55%. It's crazy, right? How can you afford those payments? You can't just push that onto your tenants because there's also a cost of living crisis going on. They can't afford it. So landlords are now in a crisis. So what we're doing, what I'm doing is I'm solving problems from the two ends. I'm solving this person's problem who hasn't got much money, who hasn't got credit, who can't get a guarantor. And they're managing this property for this landlord who, well, actually, he needs more income because at the moment, his expenses just gone up. He's collecting rent and now having to dip into his own pocket to cover the difference to pay his mortgage, right? So now I'm also helping this landlord concerned, hey, well, actually, if your property is in the right location and it works for Airbnb because it is location specific, if it works, you can actually make more money, right? So now I'm solving their problem. So what does that mean? That means even in these tough times, because we're creating value for this person, we're actually able to scale quicker and keep growing our businesses. And so people keep messaging going, how are you getting all these properties? I'm like, well, because I'm creating value for the marketplace. I'm solving a problem. If I'm not solving a problem, then it's going to be difficult to scale and grow. But when you're solving the problem, that's what Apple does. That's what Amazon does. That's why they're the biggest companies on the planet, because they're solving the problem. I can order on Amazon today, right now, and get it tomorrow. There's all these other new people who've now tried to do it. Some of them successful, some of them not. But Amazon was the first person. I said, yo, what? Tomorrow? I'm not going anywhere else. I don't care about no one else. Amazon is the only place I'm going to, right? That's what happened. That's how they dominated the space. So Amazon, and if I don't like it, boom, I return it. No questions asked. You get your refund back. What? Okay.
Amazon. I hear that. That's a seller because, like, especially as a woman, if you're like, I've got an awards night next week, and I'm thinking I need a dress, I'm gonna go, or I could go to the other places. But what I like about Amazon, I'll buy the dress. I don't like it. I get my money back within 24 hours. Literally,
No
my money
questions.
back in my account. No questions.
No questions.
They don't even question. Is it this? Is it that? It's back. You got your money. Do you know what I mean?
This is it. That's value. That's why you're gonna go there. That's why they're one of the largest companies in the world. So, so for us, genuinely, right now we're scaling. Even though people are, kind of tightening the belt, we're actually scaling our businesses. And once again, because I'm adding value to people from the coaching side, they're seeing the value. The coaching business is also scaling because they're like, oh wow, this is an incredible strategy. I see how this can actually help me work. So people are also drawn to that. So, we're doing all right. We're doing all right.
And are you getting a lot of millennials and even Gen X's into your space? Because I think that next generation of people like us need to find their way and be able to make some success from the property market, because I feel they've been excluded a bit because obviously the world was different 20, 30 years ago. So how is that working for that?
I think, I was speaking at an event yesterday. And, he's younger than me. This guy I was speaking of, he does something similar to it, but he does it the other way I'm talking about, which is the rent to rent, which is how most people do it. But it doesn't mean that's not for me. I'm too collaborative. It doesn't mean, I'm going now, you lot are rubbish. I'm not going to, no, like, I get that strategy. It's worked for many people. It still works for people. I understand it, but I'm just saying, here's something that I feel is fresher and better. And I explained that to his audience yesterday. So it's not like a combative thing. Like, I don't work with the other coaches or anything in the industry. No, it's just, this is how I feel the future is going to be. And I feel like how, we can really help people really get into this space and start to make a difference. But he's younger than me, and he's attracting a lot of the younger audiences as well, and they're not coming in, they're getting results in this space. So that's the beauty of this strategy, because it's not, it doesn't really have those barriers to entry. It's, are you willing to do this work? Here's the strategy. Here's what you need to do. Here's how you find the property. Here's how you negotiate with the landlord. Here's how you put the property on Airbnb. Here's how you manage guest communication. Here's how you manage your maintenance, your cleaning team. Here's how you do all these things. I don't want to hear about your age. You can do this, right? So are you ready to do this? Here's the work. There's no skipping this process. You're going to have to do this work. But if you're willing to do this, then you could be 16. You could be 17. You could be... There's one little young 19-year-old girl in America. She's doing like 3 million a year.
Wow.
From Airbnb. So I don't want to hear anything about age and all of this. And, there's the older people who are doing this, who are making a lot of money the same way. So this doesn't have any barrier. This is a service-based business. Can you provide a service, right? It's not a property business, even though it kind of is, because you're having to find properties to be able to do this. It's a service-based business, right? How you servicing your landlords and how you servicing your clients and your guests.
So I've got a question, which is about communication. So I think with all these things, it is about sometimes how you can communicate your message to the person that you need to, attract into that collaborative space, that person that you're going to work with. I guess you're the seller, the person's the buyer. You know what I mean? So that person to buy your service. Do you feel there is a space for people being able to understand more how to communicate effectively in that area? Because I think sometimes with young people, it's not that they're young, it's the communication. Like, how do I present well so that someone can actually buy into me, because people do buy into you in a way that works for me. Because so do you do some work around communication and how people communicate effectively?
I mean, that's a good point. And I'm always willing to learn, always looking to learn. Even the way you've just articulated that question, I'm like, okay, maybe that is something I should do. So I don't have a particular training around communication with people in general, but what I do is tell them how to pitch to a landlord, how to pitch to an investor, how to obviously, speak with guests, all this. So more specific to what we do, if that makes sense, based on my experience, based on what's actually worked for me. So so for example, I just had one of my students message me the other day saying, about messages, that being sent on these portals to landlords, I said, okay, cool. I'm going to send you a message. Here's exactly what I say. And I sent it to him and he was like, oh my God, this is so much better than the one I'm doing. Thank you so much. This is good, right? So yes, that's a form of communication. So we do share things like that, but it's more specific to our strategy, but maybe even just the ability to communicate because, first of all, I've invested in myself, right? So in terms of the ability to speak, I've been through a speaker training where I remember my friend saying, how much? And I said, bro, don't worry. I have, you know what I'm saying? I know where I'm going. I've always had this vision of, I can do better, I can help, because I've always been driven by people, right? I don't know what's in me or driven by, helping people. I don't know. It's just something in me. Like my partner, she speaks about it all the time. Like, yeah, you care more about people than you care about yourself and all that sort of stuff, right? It's just something that's in me. So I knew I needed to be able to articulate my message and get the information out. So I invested in that. So there is an element of you have to invest in yourself as well. Success leaves clues. So if you want to get somewhere, you find someone who's doing the things that you want to be able to do for yourself, and you find out if that person has got some sort of mentorship, some sort of training, that you can invest in. If you're just starting off, maybe you haven't got some funds. There's a lot of free courses now, places like allison.com, for example, where I'm sure without even checking that they're going to have some sort of, communication classes in Allison. Allison's got everything. Right, digital marketing, tech, all of that, right? So there are ways that you can find this information, for free. But also, if you want to get higher level, more specified information, and look for someone in your space who's doing what you want to do, and go and try and get mentored by that person. Because I had to take, professional speaking training. How you speak, how you get information across. Going back to what I was saying earlier on, I know that I have the ability to take someone on a journey and to get them to do what I essentially kind of want them to do in the end, but with that power comes responsibility, and that's the problem I feel is lacking in the space right now. There's people with that power without that responsibility of saying, okay, I now have to be conscientious in how I make people, transact with me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So that's a great answer. Thank you. Maybe let's talk about the future. How do you see the future for your business? What is the name of your business?
So we're Statera Estates. That's my property business, Statera Estates. But the coaching business is Success Blueprint.
Okay. And if people need to find those businesses, they can easily access them online?
Yeah, the quickest way to get hold of me is Instagram. You know this, I'm always active. Okay. Instagram, I've got a Facebook group as well, but Instagram, I've got my link tree, and TikTok as well. I've got my link tree on there. I've got my link tree on Facebook, and then that would, if you want to book a coaching call with me, go into my link tree, book a coaching call. If you want to join the group, go into my link tree. There's a link into the group, join the group, and join the community. Let's do this. Let's start creating freedom for people. Let's make this happen.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna put your information anyway in the description box so people can get you.
Thank you.
That's really important. But going back to the future, how do you see the future for yourself and your wonderful businesses that you've created?
If it's a wild one, because my future generally, if I'm talking my future for myself, just very, very genuinely and honestly, it lies in Nigeria. My future lies in Nigeria. There is, I'm very passionate about Nigeria. There's a lot of things that I feel like I can add value to in Nigeria. Right now, it's a little bit disheartening. We've just been through an election where there was a lot of hope. We felt like this was going to be the time where we can create change and vote the person that we want in. But, these leaders just have a way of they've got a stranglehold on everything. But I want to be able to go and help my people. What my real passion is, I want to start helping diasporans. This is the first time I've ever said this, actually. I want to start helping diasporans start going back the other way. Because right now there's a massive brain drain, especially in Nigeria. A lot of the youth are now just leaving, and the reality is we actually need all these smart people back home, to get Nigeria to where we want it to get to. I know it's the same for a lot of diasporans as well. Right? And I always say, I truly believe that if I can help diasporans generate 4K, 5K every single month passively, then the reality is most people are just going to go back home, because the quality of life that you can live, for the amount of money, so for example, for £2,000, in Nigeria, I could pay rent for a year for £2,000. So imagine if I'm earning £4 or £5 a month in British pounds and I'm living in Nigeria. I'll be, what can I do then? So it's not just about myself. It's I'm going to go out there. I'm going to create commerce. I'm going to create businesses. I'm going to create opportunities for people. So that's how I want to do. I want to create that ripple effect here. Allow people to have, that financial flexibility. I don't want to use that financial buzzword freedom, but that financial flexibility, that financial certainty here, which will allow them to say, actually, you know what? I can go back home now, because a lot of us do want to go back home and then go back and then start to create opportunities, for other people back home as well. And that's truly how I feel like I can have an impact, at a larger scale. And that's really what my I guess the end goal is, if I can do something like that and really go back on myself and really create a lot of opportunities, that's incredible. But while I'm here, it's, helping people, right? That's it. I'm good, to be honest. Like, I'm good. Do you know what I'm saying? For where I come from, I'm not asking for like we're good. Do you know what I mean? So now it's just about how can we, obviously I'm still ambitious, I want my money, I want to be very, very wealthy, don't get me wrong, way beyond where I am now. But all of that, it's really, first of all, just because that what am I going to do? Not work, because I'm going to work. So if I'm going to work and play, then I'm also play the highest level. But all of that extra income is just really so I can really affect the change that I want to in this world, as opposed to for my personal self.
Okay. I love that. I have an interest in, at the beginning we were talking about relationships. So do you feel like, I hear a lot of guys say, I want to ultimately return to my country. I want to go back and help the diasporans, or I want to go back and help, the people, the place where I came from. And I think in the Caribbean community, that's a similar thing. People want to go back and help. And sometimes you're struggling because you have this passion for going home and making good where we came from. We don't always find the people here who want to take that journey with you. So have you found, like, with your partner, your relationships, that people are on that same journey, or do you feel like you're on
that same vibe,
your own?
I'm fortunate, I'm fortunate. My partner's actually English, and people are surprised. Yeah, I said that. Yeah, my partner's actually English, but we've always been on the same page from day one. From day one when I've met her, she's always known, when we have a child, how do we want to raise our child? We've always kind of known that, I'm going to end up in Nigeria. Like, are you cool with this? Yes, like 100%. I'd love to live in Nigeria. That's like, so we've always been, even more recently, she's the one that was saying to me, like, oh, are we still going to go? Because obviously with the election, I was kind of really hoping, and she was saying, are we still going to go to Nigeria? And is it like, so this is all, we've been together for over 10 years now. So this is not, so we're both very tuned in and both very aligned. And I do understand that I'm lucky in that, because it's definitely not the same for a lot of people, especially with her being English. It could be very much like, oh, no, I'm not leaving my family. Do you know what I mean? It's not happening. So yeah, I did get that. But yeah, I'm very fortunate in that we've always been aligned in terms of where our future is, what we're trying to get to, and all these kind of things. So yes, not a problem. But for other people, if I'm going to be giving advice, I'm saying like, hey, like, you can't be living your life through someone else. Like, if this is what you want to achieve, and we have to be careful with this. I guess because it was just always going to be a thing for me, I've just always verbalized it. Like, there wasn't really going to be a world where this wasn't a part of my journey, right? So I guess I've just always verbalized it naturally. But I'll say to people, even if it's a new passion for you and you're getting into a relationship with someone, you have to understand this. Like, this is at your core. And if they're not with that, that's cool. Like, it just means you're not compatible. You can't, have this vision, this goal that you're driven about, and someone is not on the same page as you. And then you say, oh yeah, but we'll just give you a go anyway. It's such a huge thing. You're asking them to move, leave their country. So this isn't the thing of, oh, let's just see when we get there. Like, no, bro. Like, you got to make that decision like now. And if they're not with it, then they're not with it. You have to go and find someone who's with it. So yeah.
That's cool. That is wisdom, because do you know what? It's for some people, it's an idyllic dream. For some people, it's a real goal. And if it's your goal and it's your bigger goal, then yeah, you've got to take people with you. So I really admire you for putting that on the table up front and making sure that, that alignment is there. So well done to you.
It's important, man, but just generally in relationships, it's important anyway. Everyone knows where everyone's at.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So that was my final question. Maybe one day we'll have to chat just about relationships, because I know we
ended with a lot of energy. Then that was good.
But I'm really grateful for you coming by today, and all is forgiven for last week. But, yeah, thank you for sharing your story with me and your beginnings and, the journey you've been on. And I really do genuinely wish you a lot of success with this business. I think what you're doing is really, really, really important right now for people out there who really want to make a change in their lives. And thank you for being the hidden gem that you are. And I know that, this might help you to get more profile, but keep profiling those, what you're doing, because those are gems that people need to embrace, and it will make a difference. It will change lives. And I think that's what hidden gems are all about, making a difference and changing lives. So thank you for being that gem. And thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for having me as well. I really appreciate you, having me on and giving me this platform. So yeah, no, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And keep up the good work as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you to all my listeners who've listened in today. Please follow us on all social media. Follow Ibrahim, definitely. Follow him, and engage in his services. I think they're amazing. Thank you so much for listening today. Take care, everyone.